All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Peaky Pod by Story Archives. I'm your host, Mario, alongside
Zachary.
Zach. Ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah.
we just finished season 6 of the Peaky Pod.
We did.
But don't worry, you're listening to season 2, episode 1, our recap of that.
Yeah.
Because when we started this podcast, we actually started last November-ish or October or at some point.
We started in November.
Yeah, so
around that time.
November 2021, and then everybody caught COVID in December, and it was really fun. And by the time we got back around to it, we finished season 5, and season 6 was around the corner. So we're like, hey, let's go finish season 2, because I'm suffering Tommy Shelby withdrawals after the end of the series. After the end of the series. And Zach, you are responsible for stopping me if I go into any spoiler territory.
I was about to say.
And
vice versa.
Vice versa.
Because it'll probably happen.
Okay. Look, I'm just happy to be back. I can't say shit about season 6. It's going to be kind of tough. But
I know.
You know what? It's nice to come back and see the Peakies back when, they were just young little Peaky hatchlings trying to make their way in the world, We literally can't say anything. This is going to be harder than I imagined.
I told you it was going to be hard. You should just say a disclaimer right now and just look, something might come out.
That we can't do that. Literally. All right. So if we mess up, it will come out of the episode. We'll just have to mark at what point it occurred and we'll go through, but it's not going to happen. Although this might be like an Olympic sport. Finish a series and then do a podcast about it without giving out any spoilers.
Not pretend. You just can't talk about what actually happened afterwards.
Yeah.
No, but it's good. I'm super happy to be back and watching.
Yeah.
Or watching is not a word, but watching season 2 again.
No worries.
I'm with Tommy here.
Yep.
Drinking some Irish.
What are you drinking tonight?
Some Jameson, Irish whiskey, of course.
I saw you with.
What else can you drink?
I saw you eating tater tots too, so you're going full Irish tonight. Whiskey and potatoes, huh?
Yeah. It's in my blood.
Yeah.
Man.
You're Irish?
It's in my blood, so I'm pretty sure I'm part Irish.
I'm Cuban. I'm Cuban. I'm Cuban. But I don't have any tostones and rum out here. But I am drinking whiskey as well. Some Rough Riders. It's going down smooth right now. And I actually want to take this opportunity to say that if you're listening to this podcast and you haven't subscribed to the Story Archives show, then you're missing out on what's going to be there eventually, because we're going to record. You ain't missing out on shit yet, but we're actually going to do our first episode coming up. I believe we have a schedule for next week, and we think we just found out or determined the movie we're going to choose, but we're kind of creating the founding principles of the Story Archives show, and what that's going to be is essentially more one-off reviews and commentary on movies, and maybe some iconic TV episodes that are in our Thanos gauntlet of TV shows.
Oh yeah.
Right. And we're gonna have a rotating third guest whenever we can find somebody who would be a good fit or swing it schedule wise with the show. So please, Story Archive show, look it up. Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Amazon Podcast. I don't know. Anybody else have a podcast network out there?
I don't know. There's a few out there.
Well, search
it's in
search Story Archives show. You'll find it. And subscribe to all our stuff, please. All the support's helpful, and we promise we'll create some stuff that'll entertain you. And if it doesn't, just send us an email and just give us shit for it,
Bash us. Yeah. Just tell us we suck.
Yeah. And we'll give us some. I don't like that. Just give us some constructive criticism that we can work with,
So tell us why we suck.
And if you really want to make it better, work with us. All right, let's get into the episode recap. It's nice to come back. It's nice to come back to season 2.
That it is.
Where we left off in season 1, Tommy has conquered Mr. Kimber. Mm-hmm. Grace has left Tommy with an ultimatum. Mm-hmm. And we have yet to know what Tommy was going to do, right? We end with the iconic coin flip of Tommy Shelby's, I guess his go-to decision-making strategy.
Yeah. And we also got left with a cliffhanger of Grace at a train station and Campbell walking up to her, pulling a gun on her. We cut to black, and pretty sure we hear a bang go off.
Yeah, so do you think it's Grace or Campbell who's gone at this point?
You're asking me like I don't know. I know. I've seen it all. I know everything.
I'm glad you called me out on that. All right, let's get into the recap. That's a sound effect that should go there, Zach.
I love the sound effect. You know, we should get one of those little boards for sound effect. It's too much.
You think so? I'd like a little board like that, a little MIDI board with all our stuff.
It'd be cool. I thought about doing it. I should get one just for my meetings, right?
Yeah, do one of those.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we kick off the episode here, mostly just getting a recap of the last episode of the last season. Tommy writing a letter to Grace, talking about how he used to flip a coin when he had an important decision to make, and that's what I will do again.
I find that hard to believe. Somebody like Tommy, I don't think he leaves many decisions up to fate. Do you? But he is superstitious.
He is gypsy, so I wouldn't put it past him.
It seems like they're the same. They both have heads on either side of them. Did you see that coin? Like, it looks like it has heads on both sides.
I don't think it did. I saw what you were looking at, but I don't think it had heads on both sides. You know, I think the other idea around flipping a coin, right, is when you have a hard decision, right? If you flip a coin, whatever the outcome, it's not your choice.
Yeah.
So you can't hate yourself for the decision you made.
I think you could hate yourself more. So if it goes wrong and someone asks you, like, why'd you do it? I flipped a coin. Like, that's the dumbest thing you could say.
Yeah, but I mean, if they're both terrible options, you're not really picking. You're just kind of being told what to do by the coin.
What was Tommy's options here? His options were to go to America, right? Or go somewhere with Grace and run away, or to continue building his empire in Small Heath. And as we find out in this episode 2 years later, we know what Tommy's decision was, and it was to remain in Small Heath. Mm-hmm. Now, when I first saw this episode for the first time, like 18 times ago,
you're not at 88 yet?
88? No, I'm not there yet.
Oh, okay.
Yet. Certain episodes, yes, but not this one.
Not this one.
I was wondering where they were going with the women, like the widows dressed in black. Also, these are kind of like early 1900s terrorists. You think about it. You got these women who are like,
seems that way.
Yeah, you ever hear like these horror stories with, I'm not going to get into that, but I mean, no one's going to question a widow in the street, right? Carrying a baby carriage, but they're taking advantage of like the lowliest position in society at the time, which is probably being a single mother widow, in a poor neighborhood. And they take advantage of that, and you just know something's up as they're like doing their little Mary Poppins skip away from the pub.
Yeah, their little quick walk down the road was what kind of cued me off when I first watched this. I also want to mention that we finally saw what happened with Grace and Inspector Campbell.
Oh yes, please do. It's a small detail.
Yeah, small but mighty and important. Campbell pulled a gun on her, as we know, but in slow-mo, we see her bring her purse up and fires a bullet off through the purse and shoots Mr. Campbell.
What was Campbell really going to do there? You know what I mean?
He was going to hurt Tommy.
But was he really going to shoot Grace? I don't know. They always say...
I feel like he would have.
They always say never take out a gun unless you plan to use it, right? I think Campbell was never going to shoot her. I think he got there, he took his gun out, and he was like, well, damn, this is awkward. He wasn't going to do anything. Are those John Boy's kids?
Is that what that is? Did we finally see one of John Boy's kids? That's incredible.
I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. We are at the funeral of Freddie Thorne, which I need Jimmy to look up. I need Jimmy to look up what the hell happened to Freddie Thorne and why he was killed off this randomly. Because all intents and purposes, the last thing we see of Freddie Thorne is he emerges from prison, right? And he has the gun that he comes out with, like that Gatling gun thing.
Mm-hmm.
And Ada rolls out the baby in the middle of the street. But the way his character was going, it was like he was going to be a player in the show. And then they open up episode 1 of season 2, and he's died of pestilence, which I'm not quite sure what dying of pestilence is. Dying of pestilence is like dying of disease.
Yeah, like flu,
it's a type
or more of like the
bubonic plague.
The bubonic plague, yeah.
No, that's from 1353.
So then it would have been what, Spanish flu, yeah?
Why did Freddie Thorne
after the war
die? All right, what's the real reason?
The real reason is TBD. I can't find the real reason why he was killed off the show or why he left the show. It just all talks about how he was confirmed, or he died of pestilence.
That's the most random thing ever. You think I know these shows do, they do a like screen test, right? Or they do, which characters are liked by the audience, right? Mm-hmm. You think they did like a survey and people were like, Freddie Thorne, take him or leave him? They got rid of him?
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I wasn't like a huge fan of him, but I didn't like really hate him at the same time.
I was a big fan of him because it was like the only guy who could call Tommy out on his crap, Well, he's died of pestilence. The past is in the past. Nobody seems that affected. Even Ada seems like she's kind of muscling through. Look at her. She's muscling through with Tommy.
Yeah. Well, she doesn't cry. I'm reading one thing that was basically talking about how he crossed borders with his success after the show of season 1. Nothing else. So I don't really know.
A lot of times actors that leave shows prematurely, it's because they got another opportunity and scheduling didn't allow for them to remain on the show. But regardless, we get back to this confrontation or discussion with Tommy and Ada. And he's trying to get her to come back to Birmingham, but she seems kind of hell-bent on staying independent of the Shelby family. And can't say he's a blamer, considering, as we see later in this episode, that Tommy's not content with like good enough. Like you would think for some people, taking over, getting rid of Kimber would be enough. Like you have a piece of territory, but it seems like his ambitions are not small enough to fit in Small Heath. Right?
You mean too big to fit in Small Heath?
They're not small enough to fit in Small Heath. It's kind of the same thing.
Yeah. Same thing in reverse. Yeah. No, I get it. He always wants to grow up and out, right? Like he always has this pattern of conquering one villain, and it's always just like a lot of people. It's always all right. Well, what's the next thing?
Yeah, it's
just like a CEO.
I think everyone can relate to it.
What's the next challenge?
But in a way, it's like he's never kind of gone past the war. What's the next battle? Yeah. What's the next enemy that we need to fight? Right?
Yeah, he does seem to carry that,
and even
throughout the season here.
And even like during the funeral, you're getting business being conducted on the funeral day where Arthur's striding over to Tommy, right?
Yeah, they roll up and inform them that hey, the garrison blew up.
Yeah. Which is the first time, if I'm not mistaken, the first time there's actually been like an attack carried out on them, where they're the ones always kind of strategically going after others, but this time, the first punch was thrown by somebody else.
No.
How did those baby carriages survive that explosion?
That's a good question. Because that's a really big explosion.
That's a good advertisement for
to have the entire
whole bar. Yeah, really? The whole bar blew up.
You can blow it up and it'll still work.
Yeah. The wheels are just completely untouched in the front for those who are not viewing as you listen. We're at a point now in season 2 where Tommy just openly in the street pays off the chief sergeant of the police department. He's gotten to that point, I guess, where he runs the town. He was running it before. But not so much that somebody like Campbell could come in and change everything.
No, I feel like he was probably doing this before to a degree. But all of season 1 was about Campbell coming here, so we didn't really get to see the opportunity, or he didn't really have the opportunity to do it in front of us.
Now, in the bar,
now he can pay them off.
Paulie finds green confetti, which I think we find out that it has to do with, the IRA, which we do cut to the next scene, and we see an Irish flag behind a bar that looks kind of nice, a bar that we'd probably like, like one of these like.
Honestly, that's what I was thinking. I was like, I wish we had something like that down here, or over here.
It's like a dive bar in this cellar, type of thing. We're in Florida, so we don't have basements down here. For those who are listening, the basements are not allowed because we have this porous rock underground called limestone. I think it's called limestone, and so we can't actually have basements in Florida, at least in South Florida. Fun fact. Well,
very, very fun.
Tommy immediately knows who threw the first punch, and he goes to this Irish pub where this little boy comes over there looking for the Peaky Blinder devil. Peaky Blinder devil. That line, I remember that, like, even though I haven't seen this episode in years.
You always say,
yeah.
Which one of you is the Peaky Blinder devil?
Yeah. It's just an iconic little line. And having watched the whole series at this point, this is the first point where you see Tommy begin to, how do I want to put this? Sacrifice principles?
Yeah.
In order for his own ambitions?
He does seem to begin to sacrifice family in a way. Or take advantage of. Yeah, because I guess maybe that's a better.
All of his actions have a direct repercussion of putting his family in harm, right?
Yeah, everything here. I mean, as we find out later in this episode, even, people come after his sister because of something that he did, right? Yeah. So it's always happening. Every time he does something, somebody in his family.
Now, I want to say something
going to
here.
Happen.
You notice they put like this kind of like raggedy sack on top of his head? Yeah. You ever seen Batman Beyond or Batman Begins?
Of course.
He plays the Scarecrow. Cillian Murphy plays the villain, the Scarecrow, true. And he also wears this kind of flour sack over his head, which is terrifying. That villain terrified me for years.
A Scarecrow?
Oh my gosh, Scarecrow terrified me.
It was good. Scarecrow wasn't that terrifying.
When he went into this hallucinogenic mode, it was terrifying.
Okay, that was
outside of it. It's like, turning on the lights on the boogeyman.
Exactly.
He just looks awkward.
Yep.
Now to a busy. What would you call that HQ of Peaky Blinders? Is it just Peaky Blinders HQ? Because
it's the betting shop.
The betting shop, or what do you call that? That's not the right term for it. It's a racket. It does kind of seem like it's a gambling racket.
It's a racketeering facility. But no, I every time I go to write a note about this place, I'm always like, what is the name of it? I always end up just
there's no name for it. There's no name for it. It's just the like the gambling house that they have where they're like writing down and fixing races and taking bets and keeping a tally on who owes what. Well, Paulie's meeting with John Boy, and
who looks really young. Like,
well, he is. I just gotta say, he is young. He looks like he's probably in his early 20s here, or even late teens. At this point, he looks like he could be 19. Honestly, John Boy looks like he could be related to you, man.
Well, I mean, maybe. You never know.
Well, Paulie's lecturing.
We could be brothers.
Paulie's lecturing him on the fact that he needs to step up, right? In terms of being able to step up when they expand.
Yeah, she calls him out on asking a whole bunch of questions, and when this is a time where he needs to be the man with the answers.
Yeah, well, right? At this point, he's still very much in the dark. But to be fair, Tommy keeps everybody in the dark, especially when his plans get more dangerous, which, as we're finding out, they become more dangerous. But in season 1, when he takes the weapons, he does the same thing. He tells them when he absolutely needs to, not when he first does it. He doesn't tell them what he's planning because, in a sense, he is protecting them because what they don't know, they can't harm them, right?
Yeah, and that was very apparent in season 1 where he didn't tell Arthur about the guns. What bloody guns, Tommy?
But perhaps we're getting to a point where he's dealing with enemies that will harm his family despite them not knowing what he's up to. Because they just blew up the pub without any rationale, really.
No, I mean, there could have been people in there, although I guess it was early enough in the morning where no one happened to be there. Although people are in pubs early just prepping for the evening. At least nowadays.
It's convenient.
In bars.
It's convenient that nobody was there. But perhaps they didn't want to start off the relationship on a note where they would be at war immediately. But
yeah, but you blew up my pub.
Yeah, they blew up his pub, but he's done his research as well. So obviously, and this becomes a theme in Peaky Blinders, there are things that happen off screen that we become privy to as they play out on screen, right? And so Tommy has had these people on his radar for a while, telling the woman that he knows that she has a son and he's in irons and comes in last in every race. Tommy's network of spies never ceases to amaze me.
I wish I knew how he knew what he knows.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
I'm chosen. Can the chosen one smoke?
Yeah. Well, he is chosen for something, but can you give us some light as to like why I still don't understand why he's asked to assassinate this random person.
You know, I really don't know. And I don't think it's ever really revealed to us too much. This lady, Irene O'Donnell, is basically trying to get Tommy to fill a vacancy that appeared. Right?
Yeah.
What I'm wondering if if he's replacing the same person that Inspector Campbell is talking about later in this episode. I kind of feel like it might be a different person, but I'm not sure what vacancy appeared here and why these people want him to carry out this deed. I don't even think we really get to know much about the person that.
And we don't know.
They're trying to get him to kill.
And we don't know why they're choosing Tommy, of all people, to pull off this assassination, right?
Yeah.
Which he's obviously not happy with as he like throws all the boxes down as he comes out of the meeting. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But composed as ever, he puts his jacket back on and goes about his business. We really don't get this question answered unless I miss the details on it.
So, okay. So it is, she's the pro-treaty Patty that works with Donald Henry and Chester Campbell.
Give us some like background here.
Right. So, well, I mean, you'll kind of have to look at what happens a little later into this episode, right? But later in this episode, we'll end up finding a man who's begging for some representative of the government to come to his aid because he was about to be hung, and it was kind of at the hands of Inspector Campbell, right? So this lady, Irene O'Donnell, who Tommy was just talking to because she blew up his pub, was conspiring with Inspector Campbell to get Tommy to fill the shoes of the guy that couldn't do the job that they wanted him to do. So they're blackmailing him into this assassination, but that's just the beginning of Campbell's plans.
So you have Campbell doing his plotting of bringing down Tommy, and at this point it feels like a personal vendetta, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got Tommy getting into the cobwebs, I don't know if that's the right term, but like the plotting ways of the IRA. And we find out that Campbell has survived Grace's gunshot wound on the platform and has emerged with an intimidating limp and a new cane, huh?
I like the cane.
I think the cane's a nice touch for Campbell. Like, I can't, as I look back on this, I can't remember Campbell without a cane.
Yeah. No, I mean, he was most memorable with this cane.
And he's like fully embraced his dark side in this season as well. Yeah.
At this point, he has. Oh, I mean, he's kind of almost died. He's become a new man or something like that, right? He has his own secret department. And right now, we're seeing the scene where I was just talking about, you know, he's walking down a hall. He, like you said, he's embraced his dark side. You hear a man screaming in the distance from some other room down the hall that he wants a representative from the Majesty to come to his aid because he's about to be hung. And so this guy here, who is basically talking to Campbell and telling him what this individual has said, he's trying to get Campbell to help out with letting him go free, or at least let him know what's going on. But Campbell plays dumb. He just plays dumb the entire time and says nothing rings any bells, so that the man will be hung. And now this opening will be here for Tommy.
Yeah, he's turned a leaf, Campbell, in this season, where it's almost like he's gotten to the point where people are just useful until they're not useful anymore, right? Mm-hmm. He even ends the scene where you have this guy who's clearly telling him that, hey, we got this guy who says he was an insider, and he literally describes Campbell to his face. And Campbell at this point is just bold-faced, just using people for his own benefit at this point. And I think he's past the point of no return at this, based off of snapping last season on Grace and being willing to shoot her.
Trying to kill her. Yeah, really. Yeah, I think he's kind of lost himself.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah.
Anyways, we cut to Arthur working out with a jump rope.
He's looking fit, man. He's looking fit.
He does look fit. He does look very fit. Finn looks super, super small, which is crazy because this is, I think it's the same actor throughout the rest of the show, right?
Yeah.
That we see here. I don't think he ever changes.
Yeah, this is the same actor that I think it's the same actor as last season. He just grew up as well. It's the same kid.
I think that the time skip.
Look it up.
The time skip.
Look it up. It looks like the same kid. Look it up.
All right. Let's see.
I will say this though. It seems like Arthur at this point has kind of like leaned into his new role with the Peaky Blinders, which is more enforcer while Tommy's key strategist, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's getting fit. He's, staying in shape, right? Last season, I think we meet.
Mm-hmm.
Who comes to town last season?
What do you mean, who comes to town last season?
Does anybody come to town? Yeah, the father comes to town in season 1. I didn't want to spoil something because I get it mixed up sometimes on some of the series.
All good. So I'm pretty sure that... So Harry Curtin, who plays Finn Shelby...
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he was in the first season.
While you're looking,
something that said 2014.
While you're looking that up, I want to make a point here because in the family meeting, because Finn, what he does do is he goes to pick up Arthur and says, hey, we got a family meeting. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to say that John Boy gives some of the clearest perspective of anybody in the room. He's the only one questioning the expansion that Tommy is trying to undertake right now for the business. And he's saying, like, look, when is enough enough? We're making 150 pounds a day. And you can see that however you want. If you want to say, hey, look, he doesn't have the vision to do what Tommy does, that's true. Mm-hmm. But at a certain point, curiosity killed the cat. And Tommy's ambitions know no bounds at this point. Now they want to go to London and make a move on the Italians, right? Mm-hmm. I love this scene, too, with this family meeting because it's kind of the first look we truly get of Esme, which she is a strong female character in the show. And she's never afraid to speak her mind. She kind of reminds me of Polly a bit in her own way. Mm-hmm. She's a gypsy, leans heavy into that, probably more so than Polly. But you could see a reality of, like, as she lives longer in this Shelby world, that she could become more like Polly. a mix of material and supernatural.
Finn is a really tiny little kid.
Is it the same actor in season 1 as he is in season 2?
No, it's a completely different kid. If this is the same kid, he had to have like taken horse steroids or something to grow up.
Which actor played
in 1 year
in season 1? Jeremy.
He looks so different.
Peaky Blinders.
Yeah, it keeps telling you.
Yeah, it's him.
I don't think it's him, dude. He's so small. How could that be him?
Harry Curtin, which is a funny name, actually. Harry Curtin. All right. Peaky Blinder Devil. See how many episodes Harry Curtin was in Peaky Blinders. He was not in season 1. He starts in season 2.
Told you he's too little.
But it's great casting because for some reason I remember the little kid looking just like him.
He does look very similar, but he aged so quick, dude. So quick in 2 years.
Yeah.
Anyways,
going back to what I was saying earlier about Tommy not communicating to the family his plans, he declares to them in the meeting that expansion begins tomorrow, and some in the family are infuriated to not know the details. Although I think Arthur knows the details because he's very smug as he sips his whiskey.
Yeah, right? He is.
But he was in the position of the uninformed in season 1. You know.
Yeah.
He's kind of. I'm gonna take your role here.
Okay.
He's kind of a little base, you know. He's kind of like, you know, as long as he's in the know and like 4 other people are not, then he's okay. But if nobody knows, he's pissed, you know. But as long as he knows, he doesn't give a damn. So it's kind of funny. And you see Tommy, like, as the seasons progress, you know, he learns how to manage each of his family members to their own personalities, right? Good lessons for a manager. Any manager in the world, watch Peaky Blinders. Just kidding. It'd probably be unhealthy for your workplace.
It would be very unhealthy. Yeah. Just ask the people that work for me. I'm just kidding.
Wow.
I'm just kidding.
Are you though? I'm just kidding. Shall we have them as guests on the show and have them watch Peaky Blinders, and we'll do like a...
Honestly, that might be interesting.
And then we'll say...
That would kind of be funny.
Does your boss act like this? We'll have like we'll have a therapist come in, and it'll be like a whole thing. We'll kind of try to expose some stuff.
Jeez.
You know, rip the Band-Aids off. Well, Polly's not having it. If there's one person you can't keep uninformed, it's Polly. In season 1, I think she's the first person to get the info out of Tommy about the weapons in a church. And here, she's locked the safe. She's taken a proactive step.
She's changed the combination.
She's changed the combo and won't let Tommy know until she finds out what's going to happen. And clearly you see, like, I'm telling you, it's not that Tommy doesn't want to tell everybody. But some secrets are better not telling people. Because it just complicates things. They can be used as assets against you. Right?
Yeah. They're dangerous.
What's to stop Campbell? We already saw what Campbell's capable of. He knows what Campbell's capable of. Right? He knows what people in the underworld are capable of. Is the underworld the right term here? Is the criminal underworld? Criminal underbelly?
I think so.
I went straight to Hercules in my mind. The scene where they're going underneath. I wish I want to watch that. It's been so long since I watched Hercules, the Disney movie.
It has been a while for me too. I watched it once a few years ago, just because it was on.
Nowadays, if the Disney remade Hercules, it'd be so woke. It would be so woke.
Oh yeah.
It would be beyond. Like, it would, I mean, there would be like a girl Hercules too. It would be like a whole thing, you know, which that would be like the least of it. Actually, no, it would probably be, it wouldn't be guaranteed. If they remade Hercules today, it would be like a female Hercules, and not getting into like the gender stuff. It would just be like you just have to redo the character. The same thing with like the whole James Bond, make James Bond a girl.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of that.
Yeah.
I think you're getting a little too into the scene right now, but
no, actually, it's a great scene. You got Tommy kind of getting over Grace in his own way, having a nice little lovely affair with Lizzie here, who is clearly into Tommy at this point, even though she had that broken off marriage with John Boy in season 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but she was always kind of like in love with Tommy, right? Because even when she was going to marry John Boy,
was she in love with Tommy?
It was the night with him that she wanted more.
Tommy offers her money, but I do agree with you. It was less about the money and
more about the one last time with him.
Yeah, because Tommy mentions to her when that happens that he would go to her often when he came back from the war. So she was obviously somebody that he confided in, but they don't have the same chemistry that he has with Grace.
Not at all.
Which you see as he's having sex with her, that he's kind of just looking off and staring off into the distance. He's not really into it. It's just
he looks like a zombie.
It's just kind of a chore.
Just there to be there.
Yeah, it's just kind of a primal moment.
It's an expensive chore.
Is it? I think he pays her more because he cares for her. But I think that think about it. Think about the amount of money he offers her in season 1. It's like how many pounds?
It's a lot of money.
It was not a lot of. It was not a lot of money. What the hell is wrong with you? It was not a lot of money.
It was a decent amount of money.
Look up the amount of money that he offers her in season 1. It's a small amount of money. It's
I don't know.
It's like £2. It was like £2. It was like 2 or 5. It was not more than like £5. Look it up. It was not a lot.
All right. Fine. You talk about Paulie while I look this up.
Okay. This perhaps is one of the more random scenes. It actually reminds me of The Sopranos a little bit. But Tommy goes to this, I don't even know, a fortune teller's home. It's like a fake gypsy of sorts who is... The body language, even before you see it, because I know if anybody's listening to this, you've probably watched the episode. Something's up with the body language and the eye contact that the soothsayer, I don't know if that's the right term here, is giving to Polly, which she's come out to find whether her children are alive. Am I right about that, Zach?
Yeah.
Whether they're alive.
Something, yeah. Yeah, I couldn't find the words for what she is.
I think a soothsayer is the thing. Maybe I've been playing too much Elden Ring.
A psychic. Right? She thinks she's a psychic.
I think that's too simple. A psychic can only read your mind, right? They can't talk to the dead.
Well, I don't know. I'm not that into it.
Yeah.
So you might be right. So,
any info on Lizzie's weight?
8 pounds. 8 pounds in the year.
Is that how much he offers her?
Yes.
8 pounds, $8.
Equivalent.
That's $8, dude.
Yes, but that's from like 1980.
Okay, so
that's the equivalent to like 484 pounds today. That's not bad. Right. I guess. I mean,
if you were in that line of work,
almost getting paid $500 to screw someone you like. Yeah.
For $8? Remember, your conversions were completely off on another episode we did.
Look, I looked up 8 pounds to from 1918 to 2022, and that's what this calculator's telling me.
Yeah. Well, 485 for what?
The GDP inflation here.
30 minutes of work at most.
It's not bad. I'm telling you.
It could be worse.
I mean, you're making a lot of money per hour there.
It could be worse. And if she likes him, it is still insulting. Yeah. But it's not insulting enough for her to say no, I guess. All right. I think, what I see Lizzie as? I see Lizzie as the girl who's accepted, or, it could be the guy, I think people, can relate. Either they've been on the receiving end or been the person. They know that they're not the first option. But they say, but I'm here. I'm going to just say that I'm here. And if that person gets, spurned by their one option, I'm here. I'm the understudy. I'm not the lead in the play. I'm the understudy in the play. The lead gets sick. I come in. The backup QB, QB2, depth chart, sometimes QB3. I'm coming in. Put me in, coach. Put me in. You know what I mean?
It reminds me of Jay Sebring from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, who's
Jay Sebring? I think you're going into a tangent here. Who's Jay Sebring?
He's a real life guy that was killed with him and his wife by the Manson family, but he was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh yeah, okay. And so you saw that that film this week, huh?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, cool. It might be a Story Archive show commentary there, I think.
You never know. You never know.
Well, sorry to interrupt your tangent there, but there's something important happening here. I'm still confused as to who the man is that Tommy has been assigned to hit, but he earlier in the episode pays off the police sergeant to clear a certain area of Small Heath because Tommy has some business to take care of, and by business I mean an assassination.
Assassinating. Yeah. The name of the man is Eamon Duggan, who is the name of a real person who was an Irish lawyer and politician.
Doesn't seem like a lawyer,
but this is not him. This is not him at all. This is a factory worker, and it's the kind of person that Tommy doesn't want to kill.
I never understood this scene because how important could this guy have been to have blown up a pub, get Tommy's attention?
I don't.
He never comes up again.
I just don't know.
I almost wish that we had, I just finished watching Spider-Man, so spoiler alert. Mm-hmm. Just stop listening right now. Do like a multiverse where we find out that this guy was not killed and what Peaky Blinders turns into like later on. It changes completely. Mm-hmm. It just completely, the show changes.
I don't know. I kind of feel like the guy may have been more of a plot device, if anything, like a method of trying to get dirt on Tommy to continue blackmailing him into doing the things that he wants to do, or they want him to do. They being Irene O'Donnell and Inspector Campbell. Yeah, and maybe that's not the right term for it, but
I think O'Donnell.
It seems like maybe it's more of a way for them to like, hey, is Tommy going to?
Was it a test? It was a test.
Yeah,
I think they also know not to mess with Tommy because he obviously knows a little bit about her too. What happens to her kid. I don't think Tommy would do that, but I don't think Tommy would hurt children in that sense. But
no,
they don't know that.
So. I mean,
they don't know that though. They don't know that.
That's true.
He's a gang. Look, he's a gang member who just took out a rival gang head. He's on the move. He's expanding. And they're like, hey, slow down, young buck. Let's get him while he's hot. The boys, Arthur, John, and Tommy, head out for a little road trip. While Tommy tells Arthur, I think he told him to stop drinking the opium. It was opium, right?
He basically poured it out. Opium and bromine.
Which Tommy says a line there that's completely in line with our Peaky Blinders way of thinking. He says, I need you fast, not slow.
Mm-hmm.
We know what that means. We know what that means. We can't say it, but we know what that means.
We do. You will know soon if you're still watching.
Yeah. Well, they're on a road trip and they're heading to what we find out is London. I think the show tells us that much at that point, but
yeah, I mean they're heading to London for holiday.
But Tommy has a little bit extra in store because with Tommy's like the guy you don't want to go out with.
No, he's the passenger you have in your.
You know what Tommy is?
In your passenger seat with a pound of weed on.
Tommy's like the aunt that says, "Hey, you want to come over? Yeah, sure. Can you pick me up this thing from the store? Hey, oh yeah, sure. And then like before you know it, you're running errands for half the day.
Yeah.
Well,
while you're out, can you pick up my dry cleaner?
Yeah. Hey. Can you do this? Hey, do you mind staying here with the dog for a little bit? I'm going to step out. I got to go to Publix. I'm like, hey, you called me here for this? Anyways, back to the Racket HQ. Polly and Esme. Esme kind of tries Polly a little bit, letting her know that you went to go see somebody who's a fraud.
I didn't really pick it up as her trying her. It was more of like her just warning her. It was like hey, I heard this and I just want you to know that the lady is a liar. She's a fake.
I want to know. Yeah, I just think Esme's sassy, and I wouldn't put it past her to kind of put that kind of.
She's very sassy. She's extremely sassy.
Yeah, I mean, she's Polly. She's like a young Polly, younger Polly, because Polly looks really young.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How on earth did they not know there was a body in the back seat?
I was gonna say, I have a feeling I know what you were gonna ask, and it was the same thing I was thinking. You're just literally just chilling. You're all three in the front seat. You got a little tarp in the back. You just reach your arm into the back to relax, and you're like,
for the unacquainted,
there's a dead body there, buddy.
For the unacquainted, they're all sitting in the front seat, which is odd when you think about it. You know, when there is a back seat. And Eamon Duggan is a big dude. He looks like he's 6'2", like 6'2", 280.
Yeah, he's big.
You know, he's a big dude. So people having sex on the bench of this club?
Yeah, I think that's what they were doing. I didn't rewind it back earlier. I can't tell if they're just bouncing up and down.
Okay, so
I mean they're doing coke.
Yeah, let's fast forward here. The road trip goes first to a place where the boys help Tommy bury a body, which I can see why he needs the help because Eamon Duggan is literally like 6'2", 280.
But how did he get him in the car?
Yeah, he probably told the police he paid off to put him in the car. I don't know. There's no way Tommy's picking his ass up. There's just no way. That's dead weight.
I mean, he shoots the guy in a metal factory.
Yeah.
Right after people just left, right near the water, so people are gonna come back.
Well,
what did I just miss there?
I'm not gonna mention it, but look, we're getting into this club where it's literally debaucherous as can be. I never noticed how debaucherous this club was. They had this coming.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Tommy,
this is swing music, man.
There's no way this is the way it was in the 1920s. There's just no way.
The Roaring '20s? What are you talking about?
Not like what I just saw right there. People literally having sex at the lobby of a club. Literally, the lights are fully on.
I've never tried to look back. I mean,
no, there's all sorts of stuff going on in this club.
Yeah, some guys.
Yeah. We won't get into it.
Put it away.
Well, Tommy and the boys are coming to this club, and it seems like they're trying to make a statement because they pay off the guy at the front to let them in the first place. They're not being served respectfully here. And the whole place is a mess. It's kind of like out of control. It needs to be taken over by order of the Peaky Blinders, if you know what I mean. And they're in Italian territory. I said it like them. Do they say Italian, or where did I get that from?
I don't know.
I think I took that from Brad Pitt and Inglourious Bastards.
I think you pulled
Italian.
It from a movie. Yeah, I have two Italians on my team, and I always say Italian, so they haven't corrected me. And I feel like if I was saying it wrong, they would correct me.
Yeah, well, you say Italian to your Italian friends?
No, I said Italian. I don't say Italian.
You should do it next time. See how it goes.
How are my Italians doing it here?
Well,
I'm not
without provocation, the Peaky Blinders are told to leave the bar or to leave the club.
Yep.
You got a bunch of...
they're just sitting down having a good old time.
Yeah, you got them.
Nice.
You got a bunch of like Italians looking at them, clearly members of the Sabini gang, and not liking that they're there. Which word must travel fast, because how do you know immediately that they're from a rival gang, right? I guess it's the Peaky cap that kind of gives them away.
It's the Peaky look. It was a very distinguishing look.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Well, they're doing their type of dancing because as soon as somebody throws something at their table, Tommy explodes, and Arthur and John Boy and everybody goes into a mad run. And perhaps the most badass moment is when what seems to be like kind of like the bar maitre d' tries to put things to a stop, like this short barrel shotgun.
Yeah.
And Tommy just clearly approaches him and saying, "You ain't about that life." Like, it literally takes the gun away from this guy. Yeah. It's iconic scene. This is the big set piece for the episode because this actual location is sick.
It is incredible looking. This looks kind of like what you would see in The Great Gatsby.
Yeah. I like how John Boy just goes up and kisses some random girl, like as he's walking out.
They are on holiday, man.
This is a holiday for the Peaky Blinders, right? It's not a holiday unless you go to a bar and just beat the crap out of like half of a rival gang.
Can you imagine we walk into Invasive Species Brewing and
Yeah, I don't think it.
Someone walks in and just busts out into a fight.
I don't think it would go as smoothly as
I don't think so.
as it goes here. They literally leave untouched. They walk through the streets like kings when they're leaving the place.
Yeah, they just start yelling at random people in the street walking by. It's like, what the hell?
Yeah, which you know what? Doing? As I'm watching this, it's a very familiar. It's a very familiar setting to some of the other London set pieces later on.
It's true.
Now, next scene, Campbell and Churchill. Campbell walks in on Churchill. I don't even think he's painting this naked woman. I think he's literally just working and she's just lounging naked as he works.
No, he's supposed to be painting.
Is he painting her?
He's drawing her right now. He's drawing.
Is the casting getting better for you here for Churchill? He's not quite old yet, but it's getting in that direction. Like, I'm okay with it, you know?
This is much better than the previous Churchill that we saw in season 1.
Yeah.
This is a very good in-betweener.
Yeah. Interesting. I would love to fact check if Churchill did this. It has to be historically true. I don't think Stephen Graham would put it in the show if it wasn't historically true. Are you looking it up?
I'm looking it up.
All right. Well, they discuss that they have a bigger role for Tommy to take on, and they have a purpose of disposing him after the job is done. Now, we don't find out what this bigger role is, but we would assume it has to do with Campbell's original mission, which was to find those weapons, right? But it was really to battle the IRA, in a sense, was it not?
I thought it was more to sell to, not to use.
He never wanted. No, Campbell never wanted to sell weapons to the IRA. That's not what you're saying.
Oh, Campbell. Sorry. I thought you were talking about
No, Tommy was looking at how to leverage it the best way he possibly could, which at the end of the day, really never even worked towards his favor, right? Because Grace tips it off to Campbell, and he finds out about the weapons before Tommy wanted him to.
Yeah.
One reason to dislike Grace for some of those out there.
That is true. That is very true.
Do you see a shift in Tommy in this episode, considering the things that he has to do in this episode?
I don't know.
It's like you see the full dynamic of him, right?
Yeah.
You see someone who is the leader of his family, who's ambitious, who uses people, but at the same time listens to them and then takes care of them, like Lizzie here. Right? Doesn't he get? He gives her this typewriter, or he gives her a job to write for him. He wants her to stop being a prostitute.
Yeah, he basically has her write up her own job
description.
Yeah, exactly.
And for the same amount of money that he offered to have sex with her. £8 and 4 shillings a month. Right? You said it was £8 in season 1.
Ah, it was £8, yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty symbolic there, right?
Yeah.
Granted, I guess
it was £8 in season 1.
£8 for the one session in season 1, but £8 for the month of work in season 2.
which is
still good money.
According to him, enough for her to stop all of her other work. So the whole notion of £8 must not have been enough. It's got to go out the window, man. It's enough for a month's living for 30 minutes worth of work.
You heard it here, ladies and gentlemen. Zach's position on on charging. Oh God. Now, Paulie's mad at Tommy for throwing away the opium on Arthur.
Yeah, because it was his
but
medicine.
Paulie doesn't know what the hell she's talking about, to be honest here.
What about the opium? Yeah. I could see that But it's not like it's just straight opium. It's a medical formula.
Yeah,
for him.
Sure. Who knows what they were giving people back then? And crazy people back then. Crazy doctors back then giving prescriptions to insane drugs for people.
Yeah.
There was no such thing as like mental health back in the early 1900s. Well, Paulie's mad at Tommy because not only she feels he's using his brother, his family, but now he's at war with Sabini. They just got over a war with Kimber. He just got over a war and hiding from Campbell the weapons that he had in season 1. And now Tommy's chosen a fight with a bigger opponent in Sabini, who we've yet to meet on screen. Right? And
we haven't seen him yet.
Someone pays for it immediately, and that's Tommy's sister, Ada.
Yeah. They basically come to kidnap her and have a evening with a woman's company here.
Yeah, they go to rape her, which is unsuccessful.
Yeah, we don't see anything happen. I'm pretty sure she does get away. I can't say quite as much for her brother, though.
Yeah. But Tommy does get the crap beaten out of him. And I was so concerned with Ada here because this goes back to what we were saying. Because it goes back to what we were saying, that Tommy's ambitions put his family at risk, which is why he doesn't like to tell them things. But at the same time, they're still at risk regardless, because if you meet an enemy ruthless enough who doesn't have a code of conduct, they will still go after your family who doesn't know. And it also goes to Tommy's concern for his sister, knowing that he had plans, right? In the beginning and the funeral scene of Freddie Thorne.
Yep.
He wanted Ada to come back to Small Heath because he can at least control Small Heath a little bit, which obviously not that much because he still gets the hell beat out of him. And
Tommy has this pattern for literally just getting the shit beat out of him.
Yeah, but we do get the intro to Sabini here, where we see him for the first time on screen, and he does remind me of Kimber almost immedely.
Yeah,
he does have a similarity to him.
Take my name out of his mouth. Yeah. I love the way this guy,
by all intents and purposes,
throws the F word around. It kills me. Fucking.
All intents and purposes, Tommy's dead here. Until an unknown ally,
gunman,
chases away the pursuers here, right?
He doesn't chase him away. He puts a bullet in the guy's arm that was about to put a bullet in Tommy's head.
Yeah. Still a little bit sloppy on the Sabini side, huh?
Of killing him?
Mm-hmm. Come on, man.
Who cares when you're Sabini?
Like, is there only one person with a gun in this crew of 9 people?
I'm sure there was more, but I mean, they wanted to beat the crap out of him, and you only need one of them to shoot him. You have 10 people shoot him.
It also seems that they weren't alone. So it was a crew of people watching Tommy get beat, letting that happen because they weren't necessarily so concerned with him. And we find out that it's Campbell walking up with his cane, and he needed this cane. This was what was missing for him in episode 1 of season 1. I mean, in season 1. This cane...
He would have been much more of a menacing character.
You know that Sam Neill loved that cane situation. Well, that concludes actually the pilot... Well, not the pilot. The episode 1 of season 2 of Peaky Blinders. And it's good to be back. I feel like I'm weaning myself off of Peaky Blinders. And we have season 2, 3, and 4 to finish that off. And then we're done.
We still got a ways to go. Think about it. We're only halfway through all of the Peaky Blinders, technically. We've done 3 out of 6 seasons.
Technically, but that means that we have about 2 months to go.
Yeah.
2 months to go.
We'll get through it.
Yeah.
I'm excited to watch it. When I was writing the notes for the last thing, I almost wrote that Inspector Campbell saved Tommy, but I made it intentional to not write that he saved Tommy. He just prevented him from dying. As far as Winston Churchill's paintings go, Winston Churchill did pick up painting, but I don't think he ever painted any nude women. There's nothing that I see out of his entire published works.
Did you type on Google, did Churchill paint naked women?
No, I typed in all of Winston Churchill's published.
You got to cut to the chase, Zach. You got to cut to the chase.
I looked that up too. There's somebody named Alfred Cooper Winston Churchill that has some, and Royal Academy artist pastel portrait of nude something that exists, but I don't know who Alfred Cooper Winston Churchill is.
Let's find the naked truth here, so to speak. Pun intended.
Unintended? What was unintended? The pun?
The pun.
Come on.
Pun intended. The naked truth. Are you all right? Many accounts of 1941 visit to the White House claim Churchill spent most of his personal time naked and drinking Armagnac.
Him, yes. He was naked and painting and doing stuff, but I don't think he was painting naked women.
Interesting. Well, for another episode, we will find whether that was true or not, but perhaps it's just a moment of taking a page from HBO where they just insert nudity in pilot episodes or premiere episodes of a show so that you can have more viewers tune in or attract people. Just put like just basic stuff like nudity in there, because you don't see much of this kind of stuff in Peaky Blinders. Kind of deviates,
no, you really
deviates
don't.
and distracts, right?
Yeah.
What are the superlatives here? What's the takeaways from this premiere of season 2? It's very much a lot of like what we deal with in season 1.
Yeah, it's
more action packed though.
It is more action packed. There's a lot more happening in the first episode here than I believe happened in season 1, episode 1. Although, what you said, this episode in the season overall kind of feels like a repeat of season 1 on a more grand scale, right? Like, Billy Kimber's gone. We just got a bigger, badder Billy Kimber.
Yeah, but it doesn't feel
it
doesn't feel cheesy because there's a continuation of the Campbell story.
Uh-huh.
And we know that Tommy's ambitions were not to end at Kimber. It doesn't feel like Walking Dead where you go from the governor to Negan and all this baloney. It feels
it's not quite as bad as
no, it doesn't. It's not bad at all. It's not bad at all. It's not bad at all. It's not like a villain then worse villain then this one's even a worse villain. It's not that at all. I think the only time that this show feels like that, I can't say it because we're in season 2, but we'll talk about that later. There's only one time that we get into that territory.
Out of all of this whole episode, what do you think the best scene was? It's not an easy one.
It's the road trip to London. That's clearly the best scene in the whole trip to London and the Sabini's bar and whooping down.
I like the Sabini's bar. And then I like the introduction of Sabini. Outside of that, a lot of this episode was really kind of jumping around. There's a lot of setup here. It's the first episode, so most memorable character though. This one I thought was easy for me at least.
It's always Tommy. It's just always Tommy, man.
So for me, it's Sabini. I can't get over the accent.
I take it back. It's actually,
and I always remember.
It's actually
Sabini.
Campbell, the new improved
Really?
Campbell with the limp and the cane.
Battery
sold separately.
Yeah.
It's like a whole new toy. It's a new phase of Campbell.
Campbell in this season is way better than Campbell in the last season. Although he, like you said earlier, he has really fully embraced his dark side here.
Yeah, last season
I'm gonna stick to my guns with Sabini though.
Last season he was towing the line between good and evil, but this season he's like, my love spurned me. I must descend into the bowels of darkness. That's kind of what's going on here. Yeah, that's pretty much my takeaways from it. Is you got new and improved Campbell, and you got Tommy re-upping on who he was in season 1.
Yeah, I'm excited to finish rewatching the rest of the season.
Yeah,
but I think that'll about do it for the first episode here.
Yeah, it's nice to get back to like the roots of Peaky Blinders as you see how it progresses later on in the show. It's always nice to come back, and you always pick up on these new little details, like the paying Lizzie £8 in season 1, and then now kind of redeeming her and saying, "Look, I don't want you to do that that lifestyle anymore. Like I want to legitimize you, and give you a purpose here in the company rather than just being, somebody that I use. But it's just, you're seeing the complexity build. You're seeing them like from rags to riches in a sense, and it's always fun in that journey. So I'm looking forward to the rest of season 2. All right. Any other superlatives that we missed?
No, those are the big 2 that we have right now. The only other one I throw in every now and then is, were there any moments that stood out in here?
I think one of the things that stands out, but that goes away quickly, is the fact that Freddy's gone. It's like, it felt like they spent a lot of time in season 1 building up the communist storyline or the socialist storyline, whatever he is. And it just feels like it's gone so sudden. When that seems like it could have played such a huge role in season 2, especially with the return of Campbell and Churchill and the IRA and all these different factions. And they're all political in nature, right? And Tommy seems to be the only one more, like, it's the Sabini and Tommy side that's more, materially focused, capital, looking at just pure money at that point, right?
Yeah. It's that's interesting you bring that up, though, because I wonder what Freddy's and Ada's relationship was like, because she did not seem to be very upset about his passing.
Well, it's 2 years later, right?
So they've been married for 2 years, yeah?
It was never good at the start.
Mm-hmm.
It was an unintentional pregnancy. So based on her reaction, I think we can think that things weren't so great to begin with. It's not that she doesn't miss him, but it's, what's the difference? If he was like barely married to you before, what's it like when he's dead? That kind of thing.
I kind of find it interesting that if he was that bad of a person, Tommy wouldn't have kind of stepped in and have done something to him.
I don't think
because he was very protective of Ada.
I don't think he was. I don't think Freddy was a bad person. I think it was like anything. He just had an ideology. He seemed to not betray his ideology. Tommy went one way after the war, which was to double down and build pretty much a criminal empire. And Freddy went a different way. He wanted to change the world. He felt communism was the best way to do that. In a way, it's honorable. In another way, it's foolish if you know what you know about communism and socialism in a sense. But he was an interesting character, and more than you, I felt like he could have had a deeper role to play.
Yeah. Well, that's all I have on my list of questions.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you for tuning in to episode 1 of season 2 of the Peaky Blinders pod. We thank you for joining us on this journey. And if you're watching chronologically, we will be cranking these out 2 a week for the next 2 months until we're done with seasons 2, 3, and 4. And while you're just having withdrawals of hearing my voice and Zach's voice, you can go on over to the Story Archive Show, go to that search bar, type in the Story Archive Show, subscribe to it, and you'll see that we'll be having some good times, discussions over some great films, great TV shows, and on a more one-off basis with some rotating third wheels, right? Third wheels is a terrible way to describe a guest.
It is a bad way to put
My bad. It's late. But
we would like to have a guest on this as often as possible. Is what Mario is trying to say here, but failing to communicate.
We'll be talking and just pretty much discussing films that pique our interest, and perhaps really I think my goal for the Story Archive Show would be to have something that when we look back on it 30 years from now, that we literally have a library of like. Just if you watched all the films that we discussed, you would have a good sense of cinema and the history of cinema and whatnot, And I think at first we'll start with more modern films, but I would love to get back into the French New Wave and go into like how did modern cinema like kind of evolve over the years and go from the traditional, studio film to, the new wave and what we have today, where directors now have their imprint on films, like where their vision really. You watch a Tarantino film and it's like it's a Tarantino flick. You watch a Fincher film and you just know it's Fincher. Different directors have different styles, and it's like they just imprint that on their genre. Scorsese and just all the greats that we have come to love. That wasn't necessarily a normal style of making films like back in the day. That was something that was an evolution that occurred, and that's something that I know. I feel like I've barely scratched the surface on myself, so it would be interesting to just kind of go on that journey with other people and discuss films that we like that have played a role in shaping me, and in films that may have shaped you as well, Zach, and in what you watched in your childhood or your teenage years, that had an impact, that made you love storytelling, that made you love. And that's kind of what we want to communicate with the audience. Like, what films made you like feel something, that changed your outlook on something, that made you like forget where you were and what your circumstances were for an hour and a half, And there's movies, there's nothing like movies and storytelling and moving pictures that do that. There's no other art medium that can transport you like that. That's why we love TV shows. That's why like there was kind of my own sort of awakening to like TV shows as I was like a teenager, where I was like, wait a minute. What I love in films can be elaborated even in a deeper sense in a TV show, where you can expand on a character for, instead of an hour and a half, you can do it for 9 hours, and that's where you have these iconic characters like Walter White and Don Draper and just countless others, Tony Soprano, and I can go on and on and on, but where you have these 4 or 5 seasons, 6 seasons to learn about a person and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, go over to the Story Archive show. That is the gist of it. That's the heart of it, really, the core. And we want that to be the kind of the hub of where you can catch all things new from us, because we'll continue doing new series, new recaps, all sorts of things for other shows. We have one for Lupin. If you're interested in that, it's on Netflix. You can catch both seasons or both parts of season 1 on there. And we already have we're up to date on that. So as you stay tuned with us, you'll see that we're going to be rolling out new series as the year progresses. So thanks for tuning in again. That was a long-winded one, but I just really want people to tune into that, because if you're enjoying this, you will enjoy the Story Archive show. Guarantee it, or Zach will give you all your money back, I promise.
Yes, all the $0 that you spent.
Exactly.
Well, anyways, thank you for listening to Season 2, Episode 1 of the Peaky Blinders podcast by Story Archives. You can find this podcast anywhere you find podcasts: Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, Google Podcasts. You can find us on Instagram at Story Archives. You can also find the Story Archives show, as Mario was mentioning, everywhere that you find podcasts. You just type in the Story Archives show and we'll pop up there. And you can also take a look at our website at storyarchives.themidnightexchange.com, which also ties us back into the podcast network, The Midnight Exchange. There is a website there with a whole bunch of links to other podcasts and other social media accounts. So feel free to give it a look.
Excellent.
Until then.
Thanks for tuning in. Stay peaky. I feel like I should like Tommy. Stay peaky. Stay peaky.
Stay peaky.
Stay peaky. All right. Take care, y'all.